All right, good evening, y'all. What we're going to do right now, man, what we're going to do right now is we're going to get the words from the horse's mouth. So this is our great president, Donald Trump. As you all well know, if you don't know, I'm a Republican. All right. I don't like Democrats. I never will like a Democrat. I don't like the history of Democrats. And if you say to yourself, um, what I'm going to do is I'm going to prove to the ugly one, or should I say the hated one, that Republicans have just as bad as a history as Democrats. Here's what I want you to do. Go to YouTube and put in your search bar, the terrible history of Republicans. Hit enter. See what comes up. Not one video. Every video that's going to come up will be that of Democrats. But you voted for Donald Trump, who belongs to the Republican Party, who you are under the impression that one person can get there, do his own agenda outside the party. You do know he represents the Republican Party as a whole. You do know that even though your beloved Barack Obama was a black man, you did know he represented the Democrats as a whole. And Democrats is not for anything pertaining blacks. As a matter of fact, you fucking genius, you do know that the only and sole reason for the Republican Party was to stop slavery. Nothing else. Their sole purpose of existence, of coming about, is because, there was a bunch of white people that said, hey, you know those Democrats? This is wrong. But for some reason, you think somewhere in there, back in the 1800s, and now you thought the agenda changed. Oh, don't get me started. Ladies and gentlemen, our beloved 45th president.
To provide an update on our ongoing efforts to expose the tremendous voter fraud and irregularities which took place during the ridiculously long November 3rd elections. We used to have what was called Election Day. Now we have election days, weeks and months, and lots of bad things happened during this ridiculous period of time, especially when you have to prove almost nothing to exercise our greatest privilege, the right to vote. As president, I have no higher duty than to defend the laws and the Constitution of the United States. That is why I am determined to protect our election system, which is now under coordinated assault and siege. For months leading up to the presidential election, we were warned that we should not declare a premature victory. We were told repeatedly that it would take weeks, if not months, to determine the winner, to count the absentee ballots, and to verify the results. My opponent was told to stay away from the election. Don't campaign. We don't need you. We've got it. This election is done. In fact, they were acting like they already knew what the outcome was going to be. They had it covered, and perhaps they did, very sadly for our country. It was all very, very strange. Within days after the election, we witnessed an orchestrated effort to anoint a winner, even while many key states were still being counted. The constitutional process must be allowed to continue. We are going to defend the honesty of the vote by ensuring that every legal ballot is counted and that no illegal ballot is counted. This is not just about honoring the votes of 74 million Americans who voted for me. It's about ensuring that Americans can have faith in this election and in all future elections. Today, I will detail some of the shocking irregularities, abuses, and fraud that have been revealed in recent weeks. But before laying out just a small portion of the evidence we have uncovered, and we have so much evidence, I want to explain the corrupt mail-in balloting scheme that Democrats systematically put into place that allowed voting to be altered, especially in swing states, which they had to win. They just didn't know that it was going to be that tough because we were leading in every swing state by so much, far greater than they ever thought possible.
Let me tell you something. If there's anybody out there that thought a Democrat was going to win, you need to get your fucking head examined. If there's anybody out there that thought that you could go to Mexico, tell them individuals that send caravans of mother and child to our borders, let our border patrol do their job, and then blame the president. You are a damn dummy. You are dumb. I just hope you ain't got no kids. I am so amazed at what idiot thought that Joe Biden was going to win. I know what it was. There's a lot of individuals in the community you guys call black that said, hey, we got ourselves a black woman vice president, so we got it in the bag. No, let me tell you something. What will never happen in this country, let me back that up. It's the reason why it's called minorities. We are called minorities. We are the minority. And if you thought the simple love to get a white man out of office simply because the perspective was ignore the fact that we got the best unemployment in your lifetime, ignore the fact that we got our economy thriving, ignore the fact that we are in a better place than we've ever been in your lifetime, ignore all that. Let me do my damn dumb dance. He's racist. If you truly thought that Joe Biden was going to win, I feel sorry for you. You are just dumb on a scale that is epic. Really, for real. I went across my personal Facebook and I've seen individuals shucking and jiving. I've seen individuals cooning. I've seen individuals talking about some hit the road jack. I've seen all these people jumping down and praising their own demise. Let 45 continue.
While it has long been understood that the Democrat political machine engages in voter fraud from Detroit to Philadelphia to Milwaukee, Atlanta, so many other places. What changed this year was the Democrat Party's relentless push to print and mail out tens of millions of ballots sent to unknown recipients with virtually no safeguards of any kind. This allowed fraud and abuse to occur on a scale never seen before.
I just said that, didn't I? Now, what he just said was that the Democrats did something and just said, you know what, to hell with it. But that's because, check this out. That's because Miss Alexandria Cortez, one of y'all mouthpieces, one of y'all Democrats, one of the epic Democrat mouthpieces, you do know that she was a bartender before y'all allowed her to start speaking for y'all, right? Yeah. You don't want a billionaire that's in office because you claim that he just don't know anything about anything. Yeah, he just tripped over deals to become a billionaire. Yeah. Oh, you think Donald Trump is a one-off? Yeah. Okay. What happened? What happened when billionaire Mike Bloomberg was mayor of New York City? He did such a grand job. We elected him in office for a third term. I'm sorry, New Yorkians elected him in office for a third time. You see, when you go back in history, you'll see that there was two individuals that used to hold the American office. They were either rich or they was from our military.
Using the pandemic as a pretext, Democrat politicians and judges drastically changed election procedures just months and in some cases weeks before the election on the 3rd of November. Very rarely were legislatures involved, and constitutionally they had to be involved. But very, very rarely, and you'll see that as we continue to file our suits, it's constitutionally absolutely incorrect what took place, even from a legal standpoint.
See, what y'all got to understand is that our forefathers, when they wrote the Constitution, this was already thought about. Yeah, this ain't nothing new. There are safeguards for our Constitution. Yeah, sorry. But the Democrats just had y'all thinking that we can just whiff it. Yeah. You're a Democrat, right? Yeah. Okay.
Many states such as Nevada and California sent millions of live ballots to every person on their voter rolls, whether those individuals had requested ballots or not, whether they were dead or alive. They got ballots. Other states such as Minnesota, Michigan, and Wisconsin instituted universal absentee balloting right in the middle of an election year. sending absentee ballot request forms to all voters on all rolls.
Allow me. I was in the military. Absentee ballots for, individuals that are out of the country. Absentee ballots.
No matter who they were. This colossal expansion of mail-in voting opened the floodgates to massive fraud. It's a widely known fact that the voting rolls are packed with people who are not lawfully eligible to vote, including those who are deceased, have moved out of their state, and even are non-citizens of our country. Beyond this, the records are riddled with errors, wrong addresses, duplicate entries, and many other issues. This is not disputed. It has never been disputed. Dozens of counties in the key swing states have more registered voters on the rolls than they have voting age citizens, including.
You heard that? The Democrats are so dumb, you follow them, of course. The Democrats are so dumb, they had more voters than they had citizens. No, I'm sorry. They had more registered aged voters than they had citizens in its entirety. So just so you don't understand, or let me put it in perspective for you. Let's just say they got 8 million citizens. But out of those 8 million, 3 million of them are registered voters. Well, they had 10 million voter ballots mailed in. Democrats.
67 counties in Michigan. All of this is evidence. In Wisconsin, the state's Board of Elections could not confirm the residency of more than 100,000 people, but repeatedly refused to remove those names from its voter rolls before the election. They knew why, nobody else did. I knew why. They're illegal voters. It is a travesty that in the year 2020, we do not have any means of verifying the eligibility of those who cast ballots in an election, and such an important election it is, or determining who they are, whether they live in the state, or whether they are even American citizens. We have no idea. We have in all swing states major infractions or outright fraud, which is far more in numbers or votes than we need to overturn the results of a state. In other words, in Wisconsin, as an example, where we were way up on election night, they ultimately had us miraculously losing by 20,000 votes.
You heard what he just said? He said in Wisconsin, when we was way up, then all of a sudden they fell 20,000 votes behind.
And I can show you right here that Wisconsin, we're leading by a lot. And then at 3:42 in the morning, there was this. It was a massive dump of votes. Mostly Biden. Almost all Biden.
All
To this
Biden.
day, everyone's trying to figure out, where did it come from? But I went from leading by a lot to losing by a little. And that's right here. That's at 3:42 in the morning. That's Wisconsin. A terrible thing. Terrible, terrible thing. But we will have far more, many times more, than the 20,000 votes needed to overturn the state. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of votes. We're talking about numbers like nobody has ever seen before. Just as an example, in certain states, we'll be down by, let's say, 7,000 votes. But we'll find later on 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 discrepancies or fraudulent votes. And that includes votes that went through when they were not allowed to be seen by Republican poll watchers because the poll watchers were locked out of the building, or people that innocently came to vote on November 3rd who were all excited about their vote They were happy. They were proud to be citizens of the United States of America. And they went up and they said, I'd like to vote. And they were told that they can't vote. I'm sorry, they were told. I'm sorry. You've already voted by mail-in ballot. Congratulations. We received a ballot, so you can no longer vote. They didn't know what to do. They had no one to complain to. Most just left and said, that's strange. But many people complained and complained vehemently. And in a lot of cases, they filled out a provisional ballot, which was almost never used, but in virtually every case was a vote for Trump. In other words, they went in to vote, and they were told that they voted. And they didn't vote. And they left, and they felt horror. And they lost respect for our system. And this happened tens of thousands of times all over the country. That's how desperate the Democrats were. They would fill out ballots of people not even knowing if these people were going to show up. And when they did show up, they said, sorry, you've already voted. And on top of everything else, we have a company that's very suspect. Its name is Dominion. With the turn of a dial or the change of a chip, you can press a button for Trump and the vote goes to Biden. What kind of a system is this? We have to go to paper. Maybe it takes longer, but the only secure system is paper. Not these systems that nobody understands, including, in many cases, the people that run them. Although, unfortunately, I think they understand them far too well. In one Michigan county, as an example, that used Dominion systems, they found that nearly 6,000 votes had been wrongly switched from Trump to Biden. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is what we caught. How many didn't we catch? Are there hundreds of other examples throughout the country? Are there thousands? We just got...
People, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you why I'm such an advocate for right. When you love your child and you go into a courtroom and you see a woman over there and you see a judge kind of give her that look like, yeah, we got you. And you just constantly get exposed to wrong and what you love so much, your child, get ripped away from you. I'm listening to this man right here, and I felt like I felt like crying because I don't like wrong. I don't like wrong. I was exposed to too much wrong in such a short period of time. I don't like wrong. This is why I don't like negative. This is why I don't like attitude. This is why I don't like it. I don't like wrong. I don't like wrong. I'm not going to allow somebody to tell me wrong. When I'm listening to this man, what he's saying right now, and I'm just thinking about all the black people of the postings that I've seen where individuals just happy he got out of office. It is just amazing how people are so relentless to bring themselves to their own demise. When white people do wrong to blacks, we can identify it real well. When other wrong is done, we want to sit back and we don't want to say nothing because it doesn't fit the narrative to what we want, like little kids. A little child can have rotten teeth. A child can have teeth rotten out their mouth, but still want candy.
Lucky, and they called it a glitch. But we found numerous glitches that evening. 96% of the company's political donations went to Democrats, not surprisingly. And frankly, when you look at who's running the company, who's in charge, who owns it, which we don't know, where are the votes counted, which we think are counted in foreign countries, not in the United States, Dominion is a disaster. Election authorities in Texas have repeatedly blocked the deployment of Dominion systems due to concerns about security vulnerabilities and the potential for errors and outright fraud. Every district that uses Dominion systems must be carefully monitored and carefully investigated, but not only for the future. Right now, we're worried about the present and what went on with an election that we won without question. Under my lead, the Republicans won almost every state house in the United States, which they weren't expected to do. We won up to 16 seats in the House. The numbers are still being tabulated because there are 9 seats that nobody really knows. They don't know. They're still, 2 weeks later, still under consideration because it's a mess. Republicans were supposed to lose many seats, and instead they won those seats in the House. And a very important election that's coming up will determine whether or not we hold the Senate. David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler are 2 tremendous people. Unfortunately, in Georgia, they're using the same horrible Dominion system. And it's already been out that hundreds of thousands, think of it, hundreds of thousands of absentee ballots have been requested. You check it out, who's requesting those ballots. The difference is it's one state and we will have our eyes on it like nobody's ever watched anything before because we have to win those 2 Senate seats. The tremendous success we had in the House of Representatives and the tremendous success we've had so far in the Senate, unexpected success all over the country and right here in Washington. It is statistically impossible that the person, me, that led the charge lost. The greatest pollsters, the real pollsters, not the ones that had us down 17 points in Wisconsin when we actually won, or the ones that had us down 4 or 5 points in Florida and we won by many points, or had us even and down in Texas and we won by a lot. Not those pollsters, but real pollsters, pollsters that are fair and honest, said we can't understand a thing like this. It's never happened before. You led the country to victory, and you were the only one that was lost. It's not possible. The Speaker of the House of a certain state said, sir,
let me tell you what he just said, because if you're a Democrat, you just don't have no intellect. You can have both of them. What he just said was, how could you have led the charge and you're the only one that lost? All right. So let me help you understand what that means. Because if you're a Democrat, like I said, you got to be the dumbest person in the history of dumb. How did all those other Republicans win the House and the main Republican that holds the office in the White House lose? That's what they call a fucking anomaly. If you don't know what the word an anomaly means, look it up. That's impossible. How do the Republicans get 12 seats and 9 is still unaccounted for? Gee, I wonder why. How? And then the Senate is coming up and we getting that too. The Republicans are getting that too. All right. How do the man that's leading the charge? Because let's be clear, I said it earlier and let me say it one more again. It's the Republican Party as a whole. And the problem is the Republicans didn't win. The Democrats just showed your hand are stupid. They wanted you to take the COVID. They want to take your kids away. They want to do all these things. All the Democrat states is trying to mandate a COVID vaccination. The governor of New York said, I'm going to make it mandatory that y'all take COVID. What did the white God Republican president say? Oh, is that right? Well, I'm not even going to send you the virus then, a vaccination. I'm not even going to send it to you then. If you're making it mandatory that your citizens got to take it, you won't even get it. But y'all just sit back and say, oh, I don't care about that. He's racist.
Expected to lose my seat. And instead, because of you and because of that incredible charge and all of those rallies, we had a tremendous victory. And everybody knows it. You were much more popular than me, sir, except I got many more votes than you did. And it's impossible that that happened. There is something wrong. I'll tell you what's wrong. Voter fraud. Here's an example. This is Michigan. At 6:31 in the morning, a vote dump of 149,772 votes came in unexpectedly. We were winning by a lot. That batch was received
Biden.
in horror. Nobody knows anything about it. By the way, there's your line. This is one of many. Here's what is normal. And all of a sudden, look at that. This is normal. Normal. Look, even here. Normal. And then boom, all of a sudden, I go from winning by a lot to losing a tight race. It's corrupt. Detroit is corrupt. I have a lot of friends in Detroit. They know it. But Detroit is totally corrupt. Look at this. Look at this. That's at 6:31 in the morning. Unexpectedly came in. In the recent recount in Georgia, which means nothing because they don't want to check signatures. And if you're not going to check signatures in Georgia, it doesn't work. But we have a Secretary of State and a governor who made it very difficult to check signatures. Why? You'll have to ask them. But without a signature match or check, it doesn't matter. They found thousands and thousands of votes that were out of whack, all against me. This was during a recount that I didn't even think mattered. They found many thousands of votes, and that recount didn't matter. The one that matters is the one that's going on now. That because of the fact it's so close, they had to, by law, give another recount. But the recount has to be a recount where they check the signatures. Otherwise, they're just checking the same
Result.
dishonest thing. It won't matter. In this case, the signatures on envelopes are the only thing that is relevant. We will compare the signature on the envelope to the signatures from past elections, and we will find that many thousands of people signed these ballots illegally. The Democrats had this election rigged right from the beginning.
Oh!
They used the pandemic, sometimes referred to as the
People, when I was in the military, they was going to bring me up on mutiny. They was going to bring me up on mutiny because when we was over in wartime, we had a lot of work to do that was up against the clock, but I had my sergeant that was volunteering us for assignments that was taking us away from our work. I was going to be brought up on mutiny charges. Luckily, my E5 talked to the first sergeant and said, First Sergeant, may I speak? And he said, yes. He said, First Sergeant, let me tell you something. What that man did was wrong. Yep, he did. He's a young kid. He didn't know what he was doing. He said, but you can get that man right there a butter knife, and he could change an engine in a truck. He said, Top, that's what they call the first sergeant. I'm not telling you how to do your job, but we're at war right now. And when you go to war, you want to bring your best horses to the race. He is it. That's what happens when you're great. I got out of the military, and then I became a union representative at the post office. What that man is talking about is the same thing that I used to do when white supervisors used to try to write up black workers. They called me. So you're going to have to forgive me if when you hear me talk, you get mad because I say, women this against men that. I got a long track record of doing what the fuck I do. I'm not 51 years old and just popped up on this. I am a veteran for the forces of good. and I will continue to be a soldier for right. Good night, y'all.